So, Andrea, riddle me this. Does Pompeo have no control over Volker, but does have control over the ambassador? Is that basically what happened here? Is it they worked out a deal with her and her lawyer, but explain what Pompeo has control over.
She is still an active Foreign Service officer. She is a career veteran who was obviously pulled back from Ukraine. There's a lot of suspicion that she ran into this shadow diplomacy that Rudy Giuliani was running and objected to it, and therefore was not, playing ball with the program that Mike Pompeo was not comfortable with, but went along with. So he was trying to find out what Giuliani was doing, but at the same time was going along with it, was not objecting. She is still a Foreign Service officer. She needs to protect her people. She needs to protect herself. She's probably going to end her career over this, but is right now...
She had been removed from her post and doing what right now, by the way? Just getting paid by the government to do
Well, she's at
what?
Georgetown, and she's involved with the Institute of Foreign Service there. So it's
essentially waiting for her next assignment.
It's like being detailed, waiting for your next assignment. I suspect, according to people who know her well and know her career, that she is going to leave the State Department, but wants to leave on good terms and wants to make sure that people under her do not get retaliated against.
All right. What about Pompeo's deputy? He was supposed to be on this list, too. Are we ever going to hear from him?
That is unclear at this point. Now, the counselor, if you're talking for...
Well, how many of these folks are we going to see and how many won't? Obviously, Ambassador Ivanovich wants to testify. She's making the effort to do this. So far, nobody else does other than Volker. Is that Pompeo going to be that shield?
Yes. I think the short answer is yes, especially for his counselor. His counselor was his classmate at West Point. Then in Kansas, went into business with him. Funded, I should say, by the Koch brothers. Mm-hmm. This was a defense contract, Thayer Electronics, I believe the name, a defense contractor. When he was in Kansas, part of his world, then brought his counselor to the State Department. I think it's very unlikely you would see him outside of the orbit of Mike Pompeo. They're very, very close. Kurt Volker resigned on Friday, and that, I think, is the signal, and I think you're hearing that on the Hill as well, that he is going to testify and he will be open about this.
Does it say a lot about what Mr. Volker wants to do, that if he could have hidden behind the Pompeo statement today, couldn't he have?
Yes, except that he's no longer there, so...
Been harder for him?
It would have been harder for him, too. I think Foreign Service officers are also incredibly intimidated by something also that has happened recently, and let me just point this out quickly. This expansion of the email interrogation and inquiry has infuriated career diplomats and frightened them, because if you are under the level of someone as esteemed and elevated as the former Deputy Secretary of State William Burns, who was targeted by this, you are a career diplomat, and if you get several of these letters, or this letter in particular, you can never serve again and you could be fired.
All right, Pete, let me move to Mr. Barr. Do you feel like that Justice has been totally honest about Barr's involvement in all this? Or are we going to continue to get this out piecemeal?
Well, as far as we know, and what they...
You feel misled, I guess.
I don't at this point, because they have said that... let me put this in a little context. What they're saying is, look, Barr has been candid since April that he wanted to look at how it was that the FBI and other agencies launched an investigation of the Trump campaign. Did they cross any lines? Did they follow the rules? And if they did follow the rules, do the rules need to be changed? He said in May, after the president said he wanted this looked into as well, that he would appoint this U.S. attorney in Connecticut, John Durham, to look into this. And since then, he has taken a number of steps to further that investigation.
He seems to be babysitting it. Who's in charge of this, him or Durham?
Well, clearly, he's in charge of any investigation
Sure,
the Justice Department
but
does.
Durham's not leading this anymore. Is it fair to say Barr's leading the investigation or Durham?
Well, Durham is leading the investigation, but the way Justice explains it is that when Durham needs the help of a foreign country, sometimes doors have to be open. In some cases, the Justice Department says a head of state, the president will call a head of state of the country and say, we need your help. In some cases, Justice says, the countries want to hear from Barr. And by the way, I've talked to a couple of former prosecutors today. I'm interested to hear what Joyce will say, who say this is not unusual, that when the government needs the help of a foreign country, they do have to sometimes go to these high-level exchanges to get things going.
It is interesting. The president himself sort of outlined the mission that he wanted Mr. Barr on. back in May. Let's take a listen to that, Pete.
The Attorney General is one of the most respected people in this country, and he has been for a long period of time. He's going to look at a lot of documents. Some he might find interesting, maybe he'll find none interesting. He can look, and I hope he looks at the UK, and I hope he looks at Australia, and I hope he looks at Ukraine. I hope he looks at everything, because there was a hoax that was perpetrated on our country.
I'm going to get into whether it is at all, I guess, ethical for the president to ask for an investigation on that. We can have that debate separately. But essentially, is that what Mr. Barr, he's been ordered to do what the president outlined? And
pretty much, yes.
One would argue that that's what he's doing. So why did he deny the Ukraine story? And I don't understand why he denied the Ukraine story the way he did.
Well, what Barr has said, for a couple of things. First of all, number one, the Justice Department isn't saying, they say quite candidly, look, we understand that Russia meddled in the election. We don't deny that. We're not trying to undercut the Mueller report. We just want to make sure that nobody committed a foul early on.
The president is trying to do that. That's exactly what the president's goal of this investigation is.
I understand that.
Yeah.
That's point one. Point two is they're very eager to draw a line between what they're doing and what Rudy Giuliani is doing. We were told over the weekend that the president or that the attorney general was as angry and disappointed to find out what Giuliani has been up to and what was said in this call, and that his name was lumped in with Giuliani in the phone call. And finally, Justice has said that Barr never knew about this phone call with Ukraine, that this is not one of the calls that he had asked the president to make.
You want to jump
Let me
in
just
here? I
say
want to go to Joyce here a second.
that what William Barr was asked to do last May was also, he was given the authority to declassify the most top secret intelligence that the U.S. government had, over and above Dan Coats, the DNI. That set off tremors throughout the intelligence community, because that could mean unmasking the spy inside Putin's Kremlin. And it was giving him authority over the director of national intelligence. And that was also a lightning bolt to the intelligence.
There's a whole bunch of quick resignations in July and August from DNI that are going to be at some point. Hello, YouTubers. If you're watching this, it means you've checked out our channel, so thank you. Now do me a favor, subscribe by clicking on that button down there. Click on any of the videos to watch the latest interviews and highlights from MTP Daily and MSNBC. You can get more Beat the Press content every morning in the First Read newsletter. If you're tired of content that you don't know anything about where it came from, you don't have to have that problem with us. NBC News, MSNBC, MTP, and the Meet the Press mindset right here for you on YouTube. Subscribe now.